Staying with our special focus on heritage this morning as the country celebrates Heritage Month and, of course, Heritage Day tomorrow. So we turn our focus now towards museums. And how have these historic entities managed to assist in the preservation of culture and heritage? And also, what impact has the COVID-19 pandemic had on them? To help us navigate through this topic, we're now joined by Rooksana Omar, who is the Chief Executive Officer at the Iziko Museums. And thanks so much for being with us. And good morning to you, Rooksana.
Morning, Sakina, and it's lovely to be here this morning.
Oh, thanks for your time. Firstly, can you just briefly tell us about Iziko Museums and what role this actually plays in heritage preservation in our country?
The Iziko Museums of South Africa are national museums, and we operate 11 museums in Cape Town. And we are, in 2025, we're going to be celebrating 200 years of the Iziko Museums. We have very rich collections, and we play quite an important role in, the creation of knowledge and public programs for members of the public who visit our museums. It's quite a dynamic space. We have numerous exhibitions and education programs, workshops, discussions. So we always, on the go. In terms of COVID, like all museums in South Africa, we were hugely affected by the pandemic. We've also contributed to ensuring that the National Treasury sets aside money for, people affected by COVID-19. But that didn't stop our museums from being quite creative in terms of still maintaining our relationship with the public and our presence in the public domain. So what we did was, during hard lockdown, we quickly moved to the virtual platform and communicated and showcased our collections to members of the public. I must say that this is all because of the very innovative, committed staff of the Iziko Museums, who really, thought very hard about how we are still to continue to engage with members of the public. And we've had fantastic programs in that period. And we continue to work, we adhere to all the safety protocols and ensure that members of the public that visit the museum are safe and still able to interact with exhibitions that we have produced about their lives, about their experiences. They can still view our natural history collections, our art. So, as I said, the Iziko Museums have tried to and have maintained a very positive, stance in this period. We've really had to work at remaining in the public forefront.
And glad to hear that you've managed to maneuver this particular period, which has been very difficult for everybody in such innovative ways. But Rooksana, South Africa has, of course, an extraordinarily diverse cultural base. How do you ensure that, your museums become a point of unity rather than a weapon of division as in the past?
So, the Iziko Museums, one of our principles, is social inclusiveness. We want to create sustainable museums. We engage in restorative programs. And so a lot of what we do is focused around that, to ensure that our visitors who have been marginalized previously are included in the Iziko Museums projects, programs, knowledge collection, and their art is reflected in our museums. Their stories are reflected. So yes, we do have a diverse, very diverse community, but we ensure that our heritage is shared. We acknowledge that heritage is the past in the present, and it manifests itself in the symbols, discourse, and practices of peoples located in places, events, institutions like the Iziko Museums, and that heritage is both tangible and intangible.
And just a question, because, when we talk about heritage, we talk about our cultures. We say in South Africa we strive for unity in diversity. And if we look at culture, for example, through the work that you do, is it still, would you say, a means of separation rather than association? Or are we seeing some real meaningful change in this regard?
Look, I think we at the Iziko Museums, by the way, I just want to say unity in diversity. Our national symbol, that our crest, is actually a painting that comes out of rock art, and it is from the Iziko Museum. So if you go and look at the South African national symbols, you will see that, in fact, that piece comes from an rock art painting from the Iziko Museums. Look, Iziko Museums is really on a steady trajectory to look at the injustices of the past. We are transforming our collections, we are transforming our narratives, we are including marginalized communities. We also have to accept that even some communities, their histories, their practices, their cultures were obliterated in the very difficult colonial periods and the apartheid era. And Iziko is very aware of it. And our staff make every effort to be as inclusive as possible. And, we are very open. We have an open door policy. We listen to everybody. And we try to include their stories in our spaces.
And then, of course, Rooksana, funding. I apologize. Please conclude your point.
No, that's fine.
I'm so sorry. I thought you had concluded that point. Yes. I wanted to talk about funding, because this has always been an issue for entities such as yourself, for museums, and the lockdown regulations disallowing site visits, and you spoke to how you navigated that space. But surely, the funding, that is a major issue. And how are you coping on that front?
It's very difficult. I think everybody has had to, funding has been cut, and we've had to really also cut our cloth to suit that funding. It means that we've had to plan very carefully and ensure that what we do, we still maintain our link with the public, and we, have had to really, cut down quite a bit of our operations, our programs, but we've still managed to keep our public profile very alive and in people's spaces. So yes, funding has affected us, but we've also understood that some of the funding has gone towards the COVID and very difficult, the difficult period, but we've still maintained what we do. We've also ensured that our staff remain, operational and that they receive what they should be receiving. So we've been quite prudent about what we do in the funding, arena. But we have.
Well, Rooksana, thank you so much for that conversation. Again, museums, such an integral part of preserving our heritage. And of course, tomorrow is Heritage Day. This month is Heritage Month in South Africa, and SABC going quite big on this particular subject. Right, that was Rooksana Omar, and she is the Chief Executive Officer of the Iziko Museums.